Is Paris writing letters to Phoenix?
He was. I put a stop to it.
Okay, but you stopped it. Okay.
Yeah, because he wasn't really writing letters to Phoenix. He was writing letters to me saying they were for Phoenix. And finally, I was just like, listen, just Phoenix is 5 years old. These letters that you're writing are obviously not meant for a 5-year-old. And, you're talking to me. So just talk to me. And then because I tell Paris and I tell Phoenix, I tell Paris, I'm like, if Phoenix wants to have a relationship with you, that is a decision he will have to make himself when he is an adult. I'm not encouraging it, but what I tell Phoenix is, I love your brother. I do not trust your brother. I don't expect you. I mean, I say this in 5-year-old terms, but I don't expect because I do. They have a relationship. And, one day he'll have to make his own choice.
You mentioned that you've forgiven Paris. How do you forgive someone who did something like that? I mean, not in a specific case, but there can be anything where it's hard to forgive someone, whether it's been an accident, whether it's been someone caused harm intentionally. I mean, there are many cases where it almost feels impossible to forgive someone. How do you learn to forgive, and how do you kind of open your heart to someone who intentionally or unintentionally caused harm to you or makes it hard to forgive?
So I think the first thing that one has to do is
say it again, please. Sorry, the connection.
You forget.
Sorry, could you just
I think the first. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
I think the first thing that people have to do is define what forgiveness is and what it isn't. I think that forgiveness, again, is one of those words like good, bad, sociopath, that, we hear it and then this one image pops into our heads of what it is. And forgiveness is very nuanced. It is not this black and white act that we do. So for me, what forgiveness means is letting go of the anger and the rage and seeing a person who harms you as just that, a person who has harmed you, and try to which means you see them as human. Like, people tell me all the time, Paris is a monster. No, he's not. He's a human being. And so for me, it was an act of letting go of the anger. And I did that and wanted to do that and was able to do that for many reasons and in many ways. I wanted to do that because in the long run, especially with Paris, because he doesn't care if I forgive him or not. I don't think he even quite understands the concept because of his sociopathy and narcissism. But for me, it was getting to the point where I realized that I was harming myself by holding on to so much anger. I don't know if you've ever heard this expression, but there is a expression that I've heard before, and they were like, not forgiving is like, drinking a cup of poison and expecting the other person to die, right? Yeah. So as time went on, I realized that all this rage that was justifiably consuming me was harming me. And I didn't want to walk around feeling like that for the rest of my life, because I'm pretty sure I couldn't have without destroying myself. Mm-hmm. So that was a reason that I wanted to and needed to. And I tell people all the time, forgiveness is really a very selfish act. You're doing it for you, mm-hmm. right? It's people are like, oh, forgiveness, it's the epitome of Christianity or whatever, but it is selfish. Mm-hmm. That's just what I believe. You do it for you because you want the chance of having a life not consumed by anger. Mm-hmm. And then the way that I was able to do that, I mean, the fact that he's my son and I love him helps, because there's that to fall back on. And I'm very honest about the fact that if somebody else had murdered Ella, I may have walked down a completely different path. The fact that
what sense?
I might have just said, I hate them and run with it, But the fact that it was Paris, like, it's what made it so devastating, but it's also one of the things that motivated me to take the path I did, because he is my child. But what helped me to forgive and let go of the anger is I educated myself. I didn't accept the fact that he's a monster and he's evil. I tried to figure out, like, okay, he obviously isn't a monster, and I know he's not evil, but what is he? Who is he? And the more I learned about sociopaths and narcissists and the way they think and how that influences how they act, and just coming to grips with the fact that he is who he is as much as I am who I am, I am who I am, and just accepting him, right? I mean, it's like any relationship. You have to understand somebody, accept them for who they are, and then decide if you can be there with them how they are. To walk into it expecting to change them or convince them to be some other way, you're just set up for failure. Mm-hmm. So learning about Paris really helped to be able to forgive. But then the last thing about forgiveness that I always tell people, it's not like this one-time thing. I didn't wake up one day around 7 years ago or whatever and be like, oh, that's it.
No,
I'm done processing it. You're forgiven and it's time to move on. No, I have to forgive Paris almost every day sometimes, depending on where his head is at, I mean, anniversaries. We started talking about anniversaries. Every anniversary day, I go through this whole process of forgiveness all over again. It all comes back, like the feelings and what he did and blah, blah, blah. So it's a process, especially if the person that you need to forgive is still in your life. But I don't know anybody that has suffered a trauma, whether it be childhood sexual abuse or domestic violence or the murder of a loved one, or even, you know, people that have committed violent crimes or criminal acts and, you know, they need to forgive themselves. It's not like a one-time thing. It's process. It's something that you must work at.
On your website, you wrote that Paris has taught you what love is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In the dedication in my book that I write, it's dedicated to my 3 children, and it's dedicated, you know, to Paris for showing me, teaching me what love is, and to Ella for showing me how love acts, and to Phoenix for, you know, showing me that love really does conquer all. Yeah. And the reason, you know, that I say that Paris taught me what love is because, you know, when I had Paris was the first time that I personally experienced, like, I mean, I loved my mother very much growing up. Still do love my mother very much. But like I said earlier, it always felt conditional on, you know, her side. And so, you know, when I was younger, maybe I experienced it as like a pure, powerful love. Maybe I can't recall too much. But with Paris, you know, when I saw Paris for the very first time, I call it like the rapture. There was just like this moment where I saw Paris and like this whole new world up for me. And, you know, I have certainly learned a lot through Paris, because of Paris, and in spite of Paris, about that world of love. And I say Ella taught me how love acts because, you know, even in the short time that Ella was here, she was very much the lover, you know. She used to tell me that, you know, her little friends, whatever, like we needed to adopt them because their mom wouldn't let them do something and they needed a nice mom, or, you know, she just was always the one who, she told my mom one time, because I was really upset with my mother, and, you know, she told my mother that she knew that I was mad at my mother, but that Ella, you know, loved her anyway. I mean, Ella was just, you know, she was a lover. And so a lot of times when I try to figure out like how to be in the world, I think about how Ella was in the short time she was here. I tell people all the time in my speeches, I'm like, we should all act more like 4-year-olds. Positive side of 4-year-olds. And, you know, I say Phoenix taught me that because, you know, when I found out that I was having Phoenix, even though it had been 7-8 years since Ella died, and I had created this foundation and was doing all of these things to help other people, and, you know, had pulled through myself relatively well, I think, there was still a part of me that was living with the dead, right? there was still a part of me that was not fully engaged in my own life. And when I found out that I was having Phoenix, and then when Phoenix was born, and then, 12 hours later, they whisked him off to the intensive care unit because he had this horrible heart problem. He is what it took for me to come back fully present in the moment. I like to tell people that until Phoenix, I lived with 1 foot in the land of the living and 1 foot in the land of the dead. Like I was straddling that grave, and there was still a possibility that I could have fallen into it, I guess, at any moment. But Phoenix took that possibility away. Like, I know. Phoenix really, like, you know how everybody around the world now is all about like mindfulness, living in the present. And a lot of people think like if you're going to be mindful, you have to have calm and quiet and, but I don't think so. Phoenix is not calm and he's not quiet. But when I'm with Phoenix is when I experience the most mindfulness I've ever experienced, because I'm choosing to stay in that moment with him. Because I know now, after Parasanella, how amazing those moments are. And I also know that you don't know how many of them you're going to get. Mm-hmm. So my crazy, difficult, opinionated 5-year-old is what keeps me grounded in the present, very mindful. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If people want to reach out to you, be it for help with your organization, or if they're interested in your work, or they want to book you as a speaker, how can they reach out to you?
Just Google my name. No. No, you can. We have a website, www.ella, found, found.org. Mm-hmm. Or seriously, they can just Google Charity Lee, and it's like all out there. But the website's the best way. We're also on Facebook. I think we're on Twitter. Pretty sure we're on Twitter. Yeah, that's it. We don't do Instagram.
And if they need any help, if they had trauma, if they had if they're on either side of an act of violence, they can reach out to you, and then you can connect them to people who can help, or you can be of assistance to find them.
Yeah, what I want people to know is I am welcome to anybody at all reaching out to me. I get a lot of people, though, who, I don't know, and they don't even live anywhere near where I could, like, actually meet with them. And, they want to know, like, this is a terrible thing that happened to me. How do I deal with it? And, the only thing I can really do in situations like that is be like, well, here is what I suggest. Find someone to talk to that you trust, or find a good counselor, and I can help, helping people do that. But I'm not a counselor, and I don't offer like online counseling. I try to, work with people locally, but globally just let people into my life so they can kind of learn about it themselves and take what they like and leave the rest. Maybe that's helpful. But it can help. Doesn't I'm going to probably get 100 to 150 emails a day. But everybody is more than welcome to reach out. Just don't expect that by sending me an email, all your problems are going to be solved. And then there's the movie. A lot of people have found that watching the movie is helpful because what I get a lot of is, wow, like I don't. A lot of what I get is people will read my story or watch the movie and they'll give me like, I thought I had it bad, but damn. And I'm like, thanks.
Yeah.
And the movie can be helpful to people just to help them realize like they're not alone. There are people all around the world that are dealing with problems, and this is how it can be dealt with. For people that want to send me hate mail, you can just tell them, don't even bother. Save your breath. Go do something positive instead. Like, I've heard it all. You're not going to tell me anything that's going to make me be like, oh my God, nobody said that to me before. He's right. I am a loser. But what I can really suggest to people is just go and be what you want the world to be.
Mm-hmm.
Start with yourself. Don't be ashamed of anything that has happened to you or anything you may have done. Show yourself a little self-love, a little compassion, and then give that back to the world. But if somebody is in crisis, the first thing they need to do is they need to either call 911 if you're in America or reach out to somebody local who can immediately help you. Because I do get people that send me emails and they're like, I'm suicidal. And I'm like, I didn't even see this until now. I sent it 5 days ago. Like, we can't help with crisis care. So
okay.
I think that's about it.
So I want to thank you for this conversation. It's been really, really great, and I want to thank you for sharing also your emotions and giving people. I think the essence is that there is hope, even if the situation seems hopeless, and we all can find hope at the end of the tunnel. So I want to thank you for that. And there's always two questions that I ask people at the end of each conversation. And the first question this is about extraordinary people who make a change in this world and who do good in this world and who are inspiring, like yourself. So who would you consider to be an extraordinary person?
Well, like I told you when we talked before, one of the main people that has inspired me when I first started doing all this work publicly is a man named Suja Graham.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a death row exoneree, and he inspired me early on to just be a revolutionary, to be confident in my own message, even though my message of, inclusivity, I guess, when it comes to how to treat victims and perpetrators is not a widely practiced or accepted one. But he just inspired me and motivated me to just speak my mind as I felt it needed to be spoken. And his story is fascinating, just fascinating. It encompasses, being a death row exoneree, fighting for civil rights, the Black Power movement back in the day in prison. And I mean, he has a fascinating story. So I recommend Suja Graham.
Thank you. And the last question, and I want to close the conversation with that is, what's your message to the world? What's the message that's closest to your heart that you want to give to everyone who's watching this or to who's listening to this?
I guess what my message to the world has always been is experience, right?
Oh, sorry. Now the connection dropped. Sorry. The connection dropped.
Oh, okay. I guess my message has always been, own your story. Own your story. It's your voice. Use that voice. And at the end of the day, always make your decisions based on love. I mean, like you just said, mine, I think, is a story of hope in spite of the odds. And to just know that as long as you're breathing, there is definitely hope. Tragedy is not the end of the world. In fact, it can be so I guess that's my message.
Gertie, thank you for the conversation. I really enjoyed it. And I will, of course, put a link to all of your website and to your foundation below this video for everyone to watch. So Thank you for your time, and hope to talk to you again.
All right, thanks. And thanks for the hookup with Shannon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Here comes the sunshine and burns away clouds like they never were.